Okay.
Boom, 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 boom. Welcome. We are live, live, live. What is up, Miss Joy?
Hello, Ali. How are you doing?
I am Sunday fantastic.
Hey, I like it.
I am
I like
Sunday
it.
fantastic.
That's
What's up,
good.
everybody? You guys, let's get this started. So, welcome back to my channel. For whoever is jumping on live with us, please feel free to get in the chat, introduce yourself. If you're a newbie, and you're interested in this conversation, this topic, and such, please click that subscribe button, like, and share. And then that little bell notification do jobby there so you get notified we do when my channel posts a new video or I go live. So today I'm gonna give y'all the topic to start off with, and then we're gonna do some introduction. So my channel is Where's Ali, and I am Ali. And today's topic is beliefs, drum roll, beliefs that could be holding you back from the life that you dream of. Okay. So this is going to be a good topic. Y'all notice, I don't know if you guys noticed in the thumbnail that said part one, because we are foreshadowing additional parts
More.
of conversation with this, because this can go so deeply, into different areas that we're going to delve into on today's conversation. You know how people say on today? Remember, like, I don't know if that happening, like it was always with the church folks. They say on today, and I'm like, well, what does on today mean? Like to just today, like like whereas. I don't know. Anyway, so we're gonna be talking about these beliefs, y'all. So I want y'all to get y'all thinking caps ready. Get your libation together. Miss Joy, you got your libation. Boom. We are
So
both.
do.
What are you having today? I'm tempranillo in it.
Okay. I'm having a Sauvignon Blanc.
Let's
Sauvignon, the other one, not the Blanc, the other
Sauvignon,
one.
that one, not
That one. The red
the
one.
Nor is
No,
it?
no. What is it? I'm about to grab the bottle.
Yeah, because now I'm just like it's not because their Nor is usually anyway. It's Binto, Tinto,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Tinto is red.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm. It's the red one.
it's the red
The
one.
red.
So yeah, we are gonna get into this today. Chat about a few things, our experiences, and how maybe some of these types of beliefs could have held us back, because as you will find out when we introduce who we are and what we're doing, where we are in life, and we're going to be talking about how we got here. So why don't we kick it off with Joy? Let's do some intros. Tell everybody who you are, what you doing, where you at.
Where I am, all the good stuff. My name is Joy at Soul Kitchen Lifestyle. That is the travel lifestyle, soft life, finding you type of way of living. Um, right now, I am in Mexico, San Miguel Allende, in Guanajuato, Central Mexico. And I have been here for a little bit over 6 weeks. And what do I do for a living? First of all, I live. That's what I do for a living, is living and enjoying it. um, but my day job is a life and business coach and consultant. I help predominantly women of color, culture women, get their life together, live their life on purpose. And then I help business owners, small business owners, create businesses that nourish them, that make them feel good, that bring that impact and life and whatever it is they're supposed to be doing on this earth. That is what I do on like the professional side. And then on the other side, I play. I travel, I write, I'm taking painting and Spanish classes. So I'm living, y'all. That's what's happening. I'm living.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that in depth, you guys. Joy, can you leave comments?
Can I leave comments?
Can you leave comments? Because I was going to tell you to type your
My little.
handle thingies
Ah,
in the comments if you can access the comments. We'll figure
I
that
think
out
I
for the
can.
next run.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you think you got it all together, you realize, oh, dag, I missed the point. Um, but yeah, as you guys can see, Joy is doing some things. She's living the dream, and so that's what we're going to be talking about. So a little spiel about me, if you guys don't already know, for anybody who is new to my channel. The Where's Ali is indicative of my life, because for the longest time it's Where's Ali, like where the heck are you? Where are you? And right now I'm in Ecuador. And I think we have a semi similar schedule in terms of movement. In the next couple of weeks, we're moving, not necessarily. We're just going to be moving around, doing some things. And so who knows where I'll be in 2 weeks, right? We'll figure that out. But I too am in that travel realm. If you guys know my story real quick, I left corporate America in 2020, the official leaving of corporate America. I've worked since I was officially 12 years old, like official, that age bracket. And I actually think it supports that on my social security. It's really weird because I was like, does that show that? Because they should count that, right? But I don't know if it was legal or not. Anyway, I've worked since I was 12 years old, so that's about 38 years or so of my life, something like that. And I too felt a need to find another way, which is why this topic is extremely important on so many levels. I am in a space of budget traveling, nomading, because I'm not really traveling, I'm nomading, because I'm in this space of, let me see how long I can stay, if I like it long enough, if it becomes a base, and at the same time building like lives, nomadic circles. So joining with other people who have similar life um, plans, or are walking in this space as nomads, whether you're a digital nomad or you're just out here like I am, trying to pick up that digital side of it and figuring out life as you go. On the side, you guys know, travel consultation, I call it travel educating. So teaching it from a budgetary standpoint, that you could still have fun, have a good time, and be safe on a budget and travel long term, as well as teaching health and wellness through food and body movement. So plant-based diets don't have to be fully plant-based, but showing people how to transition, maybe 1 day a week, 2 days, 7 days, whatever the case may be, as well as a yogi. I am a CYT yoga guide as well. And I'm going to be getting back into that because that's what I got to do. So anyway, that's my spiel. Let's get into the thick of things. So y'all, back to this topic. Beliefs that could be holding you back from living your dream. So Joy, I'm going to go back to you. Why was this topic? Because when we were talking about, God, there's so many things that just are on the forefront to discuss and things like that. This was one of the topics that you really gravitated to. Why was this topic like a deer in headlights for you?
I think it's because, like, these are the things that we don't talk about, right? These are the things that it's like we all know what is, right? But we just don't talk about it. We're like, I'm gonna wait for someone else to talk about it. Let's not go there. It's like those let's not go there topics. And I'm a firm believer that if it's happening in our lives, let's talk about it. Not talking about it is not helping you, is not helping me. So my nature is deep diving into those taboo, let's not talk about it shadows, because I think that we need it as a global community. We need it as individuals. We need to feel as though we belong. And when we share our stories, when we share our thoughts, when we share these beliefs, no matter how crazy they might seem with other people, there's at least one other person on God's green earth that is like, yo, you too, me too. Yeah, so this was one of those things.
Yeah, and I want to preface it before we get down into the nitty gritty, because you've said some things that just start this conversation rolling. It's not so that beliefs or lifestyles, rules, whatever are right or wrong. It's proving this idea that maybe we don't really pay attention to, that we're individuals, right? So what may be a belief system or tradition or something that works over here, even in the same household. Like I got three brothers, and we all function slightly different, from different rules, guidelines, a way of life, and things like that. So we're specifically looking at opening up this conversation so that each of us can look inside and go, like you're saying, Joy, wow, I didn't even think about that. I knew something, I wasn't getting there because of certain reasons, or or we, we'll get into some of the why we just decide to just hang the coat up and stay for a while, and I want to make it really clear that there is no right or wrong, and no one should feel bad or indifferent or whatever if it doesn't reside, if it doesn't flow with where you're at, and you're like, man, I'm doing everything I want, that's great. But I guarantee you there's somebody going, gosh, I wish I could have done that, or I wish I would have done this, or and one of the important things, like Joyce said, is being able to sit and articulate when something is not right, because you can't fix something if you can't acknowledge it. So I think we're here acknowledging these beliefs. Hey fam, hey Shay, are the beliefs that you move with originally yours? Stop it. You're not gonna start with us today. Don't Shay, get your libation, boo. Get it, because you came in heavy and in all caps. I'm with you. So what that okay. You're gonna hit it on the head. So one of the first questions I want to ask or throw out there, and this is for everybody who watches this, whether you jump in live or you catch this feed later, is the traditional thing, or what we call that comfortability. Are there things, Joy, when you kind of sit back and look at your illustrious life that you've lived, to where you are now, you got to get the head sling with it, right? As you look back at your life, were there things that you felt, maybe you did, beliefs or traditions or whatever we want to call them, that you felt you kind of followed because it was comfortable? It was a traditional thing, or it was, it was comfortable. That's the best word I can use right now.
Honey, the short answer is yes. The long answer, let me get into it. I think for me, comfort comfort is a weird thing for me. Because I do like to find the most uncomfortable thing and be like, oh, let's just jump into it. Why not? Right? But there are some beliefs that were very comfortable because you grew up seeing these things. You grew up being told these things. Everything around you, society was pointing into this one thing. But I can remember, even from a young age, part of me was like, huh? It's like, this is not sense making. That's what my nephew says. It's like, that's not sense making, right? But because it is there, because it's a thing that's there, you just kind of drop in line. Just stand in line. This is how we do things. Figure it out. There's no other way of doing things, and it becomes comfort. So I think personally, because it looked comfortable for other people, it made me feel like this is what should be comfortable for me too. Even though part of me was like, girl, that's not, the higher self was like, now but I was like, I know, but how do you go about it, right? How do you go about it if you've never seen it differently, if you've never known a different belief?
Okay. All right. So, can you give an example of a belief? So let
Of
me throw
course.
out something that's related to the workplace, because I ain't gonna go hard to start. I'm not gonna. I'm a refrain from hitting it hard right in the beginning, but this is one that kind of is reflective of my 38 years of service in corporate America. And that is this belief that if you just work hard, you will get everything that you not even deserve. You'll make it in the end. All of these things will come to fruition if you just work hard. And while that is true in a nutshell, working hard, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm going to start off. We're not going to go here right now, I don't think. This probably the solution or the thought process behind why this isn't really true is we're not taught to work smart. So who benefits? And this kind of goes in line with what you're talking about, Joy, and is this right for me? So that working hard, all of that starts to play into um, societal rules, as well as gender rules, as well as hierarchies in a certain system. All of these things, all of these beliefs, right? And for me, the reason why I think that one really touched me is because I kind of was already a statistically, because I was, or still am, Black and female to begin with. Had a child at an earlier age. So I had my son at 19. I was a single parent. So I'm already a statistic. I'm already doomed or slated to fail. My son is slated to fail, all of these things. So because there's, not necessarily a huge overwhelming in every household, there isn't a huge overwhelming of support, right? There really just isn't, because it's, for me, what was plagued with this whole work hard and following these these rituals and do all these things was that I also did not do what God had for me. So it was a sin, right? So compound all of these other things and add in the religious aspect, right? So these beliefs and the way that I have to perform in order to be successful in this world, in order for me not to become just another statistic. And I'm going to tell you, I made it through, obviously, but I never really share with anybody for probably 20 years, probably until now, really how that impacted me. Because, like you're saying, Joy, I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to push back on it, because at this point, I just got to work hard. I'm a single mother with a child. I have to. But that belief and that being the only way, I believe, was held me back from moving in different directions, because then what I did is I took the first thing that came. I'm gonna work my way up. I took this. I'm gonna work. I ain't got no choice. I gotta do this and that. And yes, it was because of situations that I was in, but because there was no other example of, yeah, but let's rally behind and figure out how to get you there, because we believe in you. Right. And I was about to do a Bible verse that, about abundance and how God loves us so and all of that, but I'm not going to go there yet. I'm just going to hold fast on that. But that's the first one I want to roll out, is this belief that if we just work hard, we will make it. Right. And I even still hear uh, motivational speakers use that context. And we'll talk team no sleep tomorrow, but all of these what I call lies, they are lies because they feed into a system that makes other people wealthy. And I'm gonna stop there. That's my first thing about that doing what's comfortable, the belief that just, you just got to do it, you just got to do it, you just got to survive. And you do have to survive, but could there have been another way?
Mm. Ali, oh my goodness. Yes. You said, when you talked about that, it made me think of the things that we think are comfortable. Are they really comfortable? For real? Are they really? I think we are conditioned to think, oh, if you do this, right? Like what you were saying, if you work hard, This is going to get you there. And then they make it sound like it's like the easiest thing, like we're all starting at the same line when we are not starting at the same line at all, right? And when you're told just work hard and you will get it. It doesn't factor in so many other things: socioeconomical backgrounds, family backgrounds, where you come from, demographics, origin. If like it doesn't factor in so many things. And I think for a lot of people, we think, well, there must be something wrong with me because a bitch is working hard, but it's not happening. What is going on? Right? And so for me, a little bit of background with this working hard thing is I come from Kenya. I was born and raised in Kenya, and I moved to the States, immigrated to the States. And from I think from the time that I left the womb, I was like, I am going to work as hard as I can, because I looked around me and I was like, you know what? That's the only way. That's the only way out of poverty. Education is the only way out of poverty. Working hard is the only way out of poverty. And that's the only way that I'm going to get this life that I want. So I hit the ground running, working hard, education, doing all the things, whatever it was, man, I was in there doing all the things. Okay. Until you get to a point you say, well, now wait a fucking minute. Okay. Hold the phone. Because you see, well, my mother worked hard, my sisters are working hard, but it seems like it's just not working out. We're working harder than, oh, just keep working hard, but the results are not they're not congruent to the work that we're putting in. And so I think for me, I started thinking, is there something that I'm missing? Because I'm pretty sure not everyone in God's green earth is breaking their back and not seeing the reciprocal results of what they're doing. And so I started challenging the system, and I started saying, okay, what's that person doing over there? Are they doing something different? Well, if they're doing something different, what is their thought process? What are their beliefs about work? What are their beliefs about life? And so I started challenging myself, and I said, this shit ain't working. And there is no way that I'm going to keep doing this in this pipeline only to end up broken, back broken, mental health problems. I don't even like myself, overweight. I don't know who I am. Identity is all sorts of fucked up because of toxic work culture. Guys, I was in the military, and so toxic work culture is it's like the order of the day, right? And I think part of the reason why for me it was so important to throw a curveball at this work hard and just keep doing it is, you seem to say work hard to some people, but you don't say the same thing to other people. So there are certain people that working hard is your only option, and then there's other people where they have options. And I was like, okay, I believe the good Lord put all of us here to have all the options, right? And you're taking away my options, which is not okay. But that is the power of being oppressed. That is the power of telling humans that they do not have any options, and filtering them into the system, where it's like, what I tell you to do is what you're going to do, because there's no other way out. There's no resources, there's no tools, and I want you to believe there is no other way out. I'm a stop right there, because I feel
Listen,
myself. Whew.
listen, listen. Okay, so that's the scary. The unfortunate scary part is the fear of there being no other alternative when that can't be possible, right? So if we can, if I just, I'm gonna have to go into the religious part of it, right? The belief system that we have from a religious standpoint, which I guess technically could take us into one of the things, you know, what I called, helplessness, right? So you start to feel helpless. You start to feel like you're not making it, right? In this comfort, and there's so many things that we'll go back to the comfort, because I know you probably got some examples too. But in this space of work hard and be rewarded later, we I think more now so today than when I was in my 20s, which was 30 years ago. We have everything is blaring at us now, telling us that ain't the truth. Especially last year. Last year was like the epitome of, listen, if y'all don't figure out how to make this digital money, you got issues, right? And it's not that these avenues didn't exist 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. Because one of the things I want to share with people is we didn't just, garner, 500 millionaires in 2022. So we have people who have been in the billions of, running this country, the Koch brothers, the Waltons, we have all these people, and they're not necessarily, okay, we're not, okay. Anyway, these people have been making money, and be it all legitimately or not legitimately, because I guess it depends on what you call it. Because there is a point in time, and I'm trying not to go here. There's a point in time where things that we know were wrong were considered legal. So slavery, at a point in time, the use of free labor was legal at one point in time. And so we know people who to this day, they family, nobody in their household ever got to do real legitimate work, right? This is that line you talking about. We see a million videos where they say, okay, well, tell me if you have this in your family, this in your family, this in your family. Before we start the race, let's put everybody where they're gonna be. Since everybody in this room want to say we starting at the same place, we all in the same class, we all paid the same amount of money. You got a scholarship, I'm paying. No, your parents are paying. Shut up, and you're not even paying your student loan. But I want to go back to one thing, because it made me think of something when you was talking about being from Africa and how you work hard. First of all, I'm gonna tell you, foreigners, y'all be putting it on us hard. Like, we literally be like, dang, okay, they showing us up. So when you said that, I was like, Africans make you feel like you lazy, straight up, because it was one of the things that I talked about. I was on this Africa talk show, and it was one of the things that came up is just like, they were like, yeah, we think that you guys, because you have access to everything. That's that other mentality. That's that almost comfort and that helplessness part, when we don't realize the what's the word I want to use, the marginalization of other people, because where we're standing looks different from where they're standing, right? And so to tell somebody this is the work hard until you get there is almost the same as, hey, pull yourself up from your bootstraps, right? Well, everybody might not have bootstraps. That's the whole thing about, we might not be starting at the same exact place, right? And so when I go into this idea of what that makes me feel like, if I am working and fighting to get to the means to an end. So all I'm trying to do is pay bills, right? Let's think about that for a minute. All I'm trying to do is pay bills and take care of my son, put food on the table. So if all I'm trying to do is pay bills and put food on the table, but from a religious standpoint, because I said I was going to go there, God said he gave us abundance. Is that abundance? So that's what I'm praying for, is to be able to just survive. That's what I'm praying for. So 2 and 2 should have told us this probably is not exactly what it means to be living your dream. The comfortability of this should actually make you uncomfortable, because it's so comfortable and you're just falling in line. For some people, it's okay. It's like that chessboard. The pawns in the first 2 rows, they do the same thing over and over. You got to have them, because somebody got to run the ship. Somebody got to mow, tow, sweep, whatever. Somebody got to do that. And some people are happy in that space. I'm on one of them back courts. I'm either the knight, because I like to move all over the place, or the queen. On some occasions, I'm the queen. The king, he moved too slow. He gonna get it done, but he moved too slow. But I already identify myself as a bishop, a knight, or a queen, because I can go where I want to go, forwards, backwards, to the left, to the right, all of that, right? But somehow we are taught from in a, not everybody, but if you come from a religious background, I feel like we are taught this infamous thing that when we get into helplessness, I'll bring up and be more prominent about it, is the idea that God will give it to you, right? And if you just wait on the Lord, you'll get it. That to me, it falls in the same line of just work hard and it will come, right? And we have to start to explain and identify what work hard actually means. Because even if we go and do it unconventionally, we still got to put some time in. Right. I'm about to say, Joy, let's just go off of mute and just jump in where we jump in, because I don't even know, like, I was going to find a past the heart kind of thing. But I just, I mean, this is, it's something that I think is really important to really kind of, there's so many different points that put us in the framework of holding ourselves back. And a lot of times we don't even realize it. And I think one of the biggest issues I have right now, this is something I'm trying to get over, is because I'm so empathetic, I have this belief that I want people to make it. I believe that you were made for so much more. And that is what has gotten me in trouble in life, is because I am trying to lift or bring other people. And that usually is my detriment. But we won't go there. I ain't going to go there right now, even though I kind of went there.
Honey. Ooh. Where do we even start? Let's talk about this learned helplessness.
Yes.
Right? Because that's what I like to call it too, learned helplessness. Because at the core of who we are as humans, we know we are resourceful. But when everything around you is telling you you're not, you need this to get here, you just need to wait on the Lord. See, okay, so I'm gonna put that right there for a second. And then I'm gonna say something, which I I started saying recently in the last few years. And I was like, okay, if we are waiting on the Lord for the same thing for 20 years, is he not coming? So are we going to keep waiting? And then I always think, because I grew up Christian, very, very Christian. My mom is still very, very Christian. And throwing a curveball at this belief system, y'all, let me tell you, I thought I was going to die. Talk about an identity crisis. I used to wake up every day and be like, girl, who are you? Yeah. Who are you? Because when you grow up in such a devout religion, and you understand this, Ali, as a PK, when you grow up in this, it becomes your whole life. Your whole identity is meshed up in this. And I'm not saying for everyone, this is just my story, right? Your identity is so enmeshed in this where you don't know where you start and you don't know where your faith and beliefs end. But that's what you're taught in church. Sacrifice yourself. It's not about you. It's about God. Right?
It's about your brethren.
Your brethren, right? Don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. And then, I used to have so many questions when I would read the Bible, because I'd be like, okay, you're saying this here, and then you're saying this other thing here. There is no sense making. This is not congruent, because I think about the scripture that says, love your brother as yourself. Okay. And a lot of people stay on the love your brother, but we forget the most important part, as yourself. So the precept of loving your brother is you knowing how to love yourself. Okay. So we're talking about God saying these things. And then we're talking about the church saying, just love your brother, just love your brother, just love your brother. Okay. Which I understand. And then it comes to a point where I ask, well, who is this benefiting? And when I started asking those questions, who is this benefiting? It just, the cap went.
Yep.
Because now you start seeing things from a different way. Now you start seeing things from, are these people that are saying these things, is this for my good? Is this from the common good, or is it for the good of some and not others?
Right, 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 right. Listen, um, so this is the thing, and I like to throw this caveat in because I find that a lot of times when we get into this conversation, and Shay, I see you over here kicking it down in these comments. Keep it coming. She said we didn't hit a nerve. Uh, let me read a couple of that Shay said before I comment. Slavery was on the books legal, yes. So who
Mhm.
are the real criminals? So the real criminals write the rules and laws. So who wrote the Bible? I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that just for a hot second. Who wrote that? And you guys, if you guys hear me, y'all know I'm a one up you, Joy, because we're apostolic.
Hey.
You know, and I'm not trying to make mockery of anything, but what I'm trying to show is we can't be competing with one another religiously and talk about loving God at the same time. Like, how does
Mm.
that even mesh? And I think when I was younger, like those things just didn't collectively make sense to me. So, like when you're saying you started asking questions, I remember asking some questions, and I was just like, but I remember asking a question about David Koresh, and I was like, well, if what we call he had is a cult, and if you look up the definition, you don't know. I'm gonna pull up the definition. If somebody want to fight me on it, look it up yourself. It's 4 letters, CULT. Okay. I said, then what are we? What is our religion? Right? I'm gonna read the definition simply because I feel like if I don't, somebody's really going to they going we're not gonna be on the same. A system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. Relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. Okay, right? So can't that just be a religious group? Any religion. Can it be? Right? Okay.
Mhm.
Because I was just trying to figure out, okay, what makes what he's doing any different, right? And it's, because of the way that he was, I think, with the younger women in the group. And even to this day, I still sit and say, I'm getting off a little track here, but this falls into that belief system around the societal norms and relationships where women start to feel like we are simply the shadow of men, right?
Mhm.
So when we start talking about that, I look back and go, but there was a time, even in the Bible structure, where women had no power, where women were simply supposed to be there to birth, raise, that part of, although we did have some Ruths
Okay.
in the Bible, right? They was sprinkled in there. They was hoping we wasn't gonna catch them, but they was sprinkled in there, right? And so, I just I point that out to say that I feel like all of these things, all of these teachings, in some way, I'll speak for myself. In some way, gave me, I don't know, a certain standing because I'm following, right? So I think what I did as a child is I did it because I had to. I didn't always agree with it because it didn't necessarily make sense to me, right? Because I was one of the people that in my mind I was like, God says don't condemn. But the very thing of Christianity is to condemn other religions. Now, I don't know what the other religions do because we were Christian apostolic faith, right? And so if you weren't what we are, it was like a condemnation, like you turn your nose up. Whether you walk around and shame people or not, you turn your nose up because they are not following. So if you Pentecostal or you 7-day Adventist and all that, outside of them folks knocking on my door on Saturday and we got to hide, and I'm being silly. So I'm hoping people can, don't come for me. I mean, come for me if you want to. Let's do this, right? But I'm, outside of that, it was like we're literally fighting about a book that now there's 500 variations of it, but you're fighting. If we, oh, this takes me to another rule, this concept or belief that God and the Bible are synonymous.
Mm-hmm.
Where, why, how, outside of possibly slavery, did we fall into this entrapment that this book that was given to us
Yeah.
by a group of people who did not like us was also God speaking to us? And so I say that because I feel like that plays such a strong part in beliefs that can begin to hold you back, or you don't even realize they're holding you back because you're holding on to, you said something, waiting for God, just we're sitting and we're waiting for God to fix it. And my challenge for that is, yeah, we pray, ain't nothing wrong with, well, I'm gonna defy praying all the time too, because I think that that's a whole nother crack of whatever. Because if God already knows what you need, and he already knows what you want, and he's already given to you abundantly, why you got to ask him every day? No,
What do you
what you
gotta
need
beg?
every day.
Every
Why
day.
gotta do it in the morning, in the evening, and in the afternoon, and all of that? No, what God needs you to do is to be what he designed you to be. You ain't gotta ask him every day.
Period. That's it.
That's my argument for when they only hear the part that says, no, I don't believe that I need to be up in the closet all day, every day, tarrying and all that. For what? For you to understand what he has for you? That's not for him.
Mm.
And he don't need us to do that.
No.
In my opinion, that's my opinion, right? And I'm not defiling anything. What I'm simply saying is for me, what I've been able to do just recently, y'all, I'm 50 years old, is start to remove myself from those confines, those restrictions, and those restrictions that say I have to do something every day. I have to live a certain way. If I don't do this, if I don't call out a certain name, if I don't, all of these things, then I'm going to hell. We're going to talk about this whole place, heaven and hell, afterwards. Feel free to just jump in and talk about. Uh-oh. Shay, stop. Shay said, why is God a he? Shay, I asked why you got to capitalize God.
Yo.
Like, why does God have to have a big G?
Mm-hmm. Why does there have to be a separation between us and God? Why is it that he's up there waiting for you to mess up so he can go like this, when if he is for all of us, he is inside of us? If we come from God, and I feel like that, girl, so much dichotomy, right? Because what you're saying does not make sense with what you're really saying. And so there's like this confusion where, you have a lot of people, they're like, just don't ask.
Right.
Don't ask. That's wrong. Just don't ask. You're not supposed to ask. You're not supposed to question God. But the thing is, if God gave me this brain and this mouth, why shouldn't I question him? Why shouldn't I bring in the questions? And then it turns around, and then you have a whole book of Job where he's lamenting, and I'm like, okay, so this shit don't make sense. So am I supposed to ask, or am I not supposed to ask? Are there certain questions that I can ask in a certain way, and then others that I'm not supposed to be asking? And I think, honestly, Ali, my philosophy with this is that a lot of religions are fear-based religions.
Based.
And that's
That,
why they keep, right? That's why they keep us in such confines, and they say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, or else this is going to happen to you, right? And it's the same pipeline of, you just have to keep working hard to get from A to B. And
right.
it's like, okay, y'all, okay, let's take a second back. Let's just take a few seconds back and think, the people back in the day that were hunting and gathering, and they did not have any written concept of God, does that mean that all of them are in hell?
Mm.
Are they all in hell because they didn't call out the name of Jesus? No.
Right. Right. And what makes one prophet name different or better than another, right? I used to ask that all the time. Like, so if I study Kabbalah, which is something I ended up gravitating to,
Mm-hmm.
um, along with Buddhism, and the reason being is because specifically Kabbalah teaches that there is no doctrine. There's a lot of information, and it's really around learning oneself and loving oneself, right? And it's literally part of the doctrine is take what fits and leave the rest. Take what resonates and leave the rest. You're not penalized because you can't meet and be every single aspect of everything, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why we begin to fail. This is why we fail from our relationship with God, whoever the God is, the universe, a deity that we see, a sock that we pray into, whatever it is, why we start to fail in relationships with each other, and why we fail in societal relationships with our jobs, right? Um, because we have this belief system of what we're trying to be everything, we're trying to be the best, and we're God's chosen, and all of, how about we erase the perfection of it, right? How about we get rid of this idea that if I do all these things, it will be laid out for me. And I think that's a scripture. I don't know. It's probably a scripture. I'm not a Bible quoter like that. My older brother used to be. He was like, we learned the same thing. I was like, yeah, but that wasn't something that we grew up in the same house at the same exact time. And I never cared to quote scripture. Just don't. And it was probably because it was pushed on us. And I always kind of pushed back. Like, I was just like, why? Like, okay, that's like common sense. I'm a big proponent of, if I need a religion to tell me how to treat people, then I don't think the religion is what's needed.
Right.
I think we got some other problems.
Okay.
I think we got some other problems. But this all of these things begin to commingle, and every the parts that, like you're speaking about, when we talk about make it being made in his image, or the abundance of, right? If I'm made in his image, then why am I always aspiring to be something outside of what I am? Why am I not okay
Mm.
with who I am? And if I'm made in his image, and I remember being told, and they were just like, I'm the second child. I'm that number two, right? So I'm the hell child. You know how they say, that number two gonna give you that number two don't care. That number two don't give no F's. That number two just boom, like what, and typically I think that's the way that it is. We're kind of like not the first, we're not the last, and so it's you're almost like the one who's expected to just do it, figure it out, because I ain't got time for all this and that, because the other one driving me crazy, all of this, right? And so for me though, questioning this whole thing around, am I good enough, right? I spent my entire life questioning if I was good enough, because I could not naturally fall in line.
Wow.
I
Oof.
mean, I did it because, you live in the house, you have to. But I'm going to tell you, as soon as I could make the choices for myself, number one, I'm gonna just be honest, I stopped going to church. So that was another one of those belief systems, one of those comfortability things, right? That you just do it. You just do it every Sunday. I'm grown, don't want to get up and go. And I would do it simply because I was in the presence of, a family member or something like that. And I was just like, when do I get to make my own decisions?
Mm.
Once that time, I got out of that and I was done with, trying to prove, then I started going back to church on my own, because it was because I wanted to, because I was getting something out of it. But I had this long, I think it was like 3 or 4 years, that I literally was like, I would watch maybe some of it on TV, but I was like, no. And even now, I don't physically step into a church for church service. I don't need to. I can get anything off the internet at this point if I need, you know, some relational things or whatever. But I always would wonder why, if he made me. So this starts to play into this psyche thing, right? This is the societal madness and stuff like that, right? It could stem from religion, it could stem from societal rules, it could stem from the oppressive standpoint from as a woman, just simply wearing our hair a certain way. You're not
Mm-hmm.
good enough. You can't wear your hair like that. You're never going to succeed. You're never going to get a job because you don't look the part, right? But aren't we also told that from a religious standpoint, I have to dress a certain way, I have to walk a certain way, I have to talk a certain way, or God won't accept me? But,
Mm.
but, but why? If He made me, my authentic self, He made me.
He made me.
Like what I don't control, what just what I call it is bursts at the seams when I'm trying to keep it all together because I have to be prim and proper. When what bursts at the seam is something that I am not provoking, it just is who I am. Why do I feel I need to suppress that in order to be successful? Right?
Right. Control. Control. I feel like a lot of it comes down to control. Because if I tell you you cannot be yourself, if I tell you that you can't really be the person that God made you, then I can control your perception of the world. I can
Mhm.
control your perception of self, and I can make you do the things that I want you to do, right? Because I feel like if God wanted us to think the same way, He would have given us the same brain and we would have all looked the same.
Mhm.
We would have all looked the same.
So here's
Where
that infamous individuality.
mhm, mhm, we would have all just, looked the same, did the same things, but that's not what He did. So I feel like for me, what it came down to, this God that you're talking about does not make sense with the God that I feel like I know without you telling me how I need to know Him, right? Like, why do I need to come to you for you to tell me something that He can just whisper in my ears, speak through the trees, speak through the people that are there with us every single day? But it creates this learned helplessness and codependency
Mhm.
where you will never be able to think for yourself. You don't have an identity. You always are waiting for someone outside of you to save you.
Superman? Oh, my
Superman.
bad.
You're
We
waiting for
don't
Superman.
and let's point out the the correlation with Superman and Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So how old is Superman? He's
Whew,
33.
isn't it 33? Whew,
He's 33,
girl.
right? He comes in a capsule, i.e., manger. Okay. He pops up out of nowhere. We don't know how the mother, yeah, I mean, like that's the story. We know you
Mm-hmm.
Krypton, well, I'm about to go have a whole Krypton conversation. And, so what had happened is he spiraled down, right? And anyway, so he's found in all of this and he becomes a part of society. We don't know him. And isn't that the stories that are told us that he walked amongst us and we didn't know, right?
We didn't
He was
know.
amongst us and we didn't know him, right? We didn't know he was there, right? So this is the wholesome. I can correlate this to Star Wars too, the stories of Star Wars.
Girl, you are blowing my mind right now.
Right. And so we don't realize that there was actually a documentary out
Mm-hmm.
called Waiting for Superman. And what it did is it talked about the breakdown in the system for young boys and girls, specifically in the Black community, who, with this concept of waiting for someone to save you, waiting for the school system to save you, waiting for people to put politicians to come and do right by you. So what happens is when we start to, like you're saying, we're waiting for someone to save us. We're helplessly. But how can we be helpless when he made us in his image?
Gave us everything.
Everything. We already
Everything.
got it.
Yeah.
The difference is, so let me ask you this. I was going to ask before you said waiting, and that just took me on a whole nother, you got to reel me back in. You know it. Did you ever feel like, and I feel like this has turned into a conversation about religion, but I feel like it literally becomes the root
Of
that
so
branches
many things.
into everything else, including societal beliefs, because if we think about Christianity,
Yeah.
is supposed to be the cornerstone of how our country. Okay, I can't even say that and finish it. How the country that we have passports from came to being, because it was somebody else's before they got anyway. So you know what I'm saying? Like some of
Uh-huh.
our people was even there, because we already know that that Africans were making their way across because of the, what is it, the Canary uh, tide or whatever, that pushed and made it very easy to go back and forth between West Africa and the Americas, being what we consider Central and South America, even before people were, they figured out the, anyway, y'all know what I'm saying. So,
Ooh.
and we're not gonna get into a whole history thing or what, because I ain't even a history buff. I can't stand it, but I like get so intrigued by that kind of stuff. We're not even gonna talk about the Vikings saying that they already seen it was some brown people up there when they got to Green. So okay,
Another day. We're
and
pinning that.
we're gonna pin it. But let me ask you this: as you were going through the phases of, discovering and kind of battling, possibly internally with yourself,
Mhm.
moving from. So let me. There's two questions I want to ask. When before you came to the States,
Mhm.
were you was your family heavily religious? Because there's always these stories about, I know there's like 400 tribes in Kenya alone, and all of these different things, and 45 of them on the coast, and 9 of them is divided between, all of this, right? But how heavily, I know religion is a big thing, but after colonization, I try to go, tell me something before colonization. What did you know 500 years before that? you know um was religion really heavy for you? Was it Christianity? And in your walk, as you're starting to question these things, maybe not even knowing why you're questioning them,
Mhm.
did you feel like your God was a different God than you grew up with? Because you still believe in God.
Yes.
It's and that's what I want to clear up for people. It's not this thing of not believing in God.
Mhm.
I tell people, I just don't think my God is the same as
As
yours,
yours.
because my God
Yeah.
ain't telling me to do all that. So yeah,
Mhm.
so I mean, what was it for your family before you got enriched into the U.S. culture, and then as you started finding your way?
So for my family and a lot of Kenyans, because we were colonized by the British, they came in with the missionaries. That was the first thing. We're here to bring this God that you're supposed to worship and how you're supposed to do things. So I think at that point, anything, all the traditions and customs and anything that our tribes were doing at that point had to end, because now you just have to fall in line. And so it became a heavy, predominantly Christian nation. And that's how I grew up. Very devout Christian. And it was funny because even though Kenya itself was a Christian nation and holds very devout Christian values, we had a lot of immigrants from so many different places. So we had a lot of people from Ethiopia, Somalia, Muslims, India, right? So it became this melting pot. But what I do remember is that there was a respect to these other religions. So even in school, going to primary school, we had religious education in schools. And so we had Christian religious education and Muslim religious education, Islam religious education. And the people that identified as Islam, that's what they did. And the people that identified as Christian, that's what they did. And I remember thinking, now that I think about it, that was really cool to see because there was that respect, but it was also very devout. What we say is what you're going to do. And I think it really came from shunning our own selves,
Okay.
being made to believe that what you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is, witchcraft and your culture and tradition, all that stuff is wrong. Abandon it for what we have here.
Mm.
And that's what it became. That's the kind of nation that it became. And so, even though we have like 40 plus different tribes that have their own languages, their own traditions, their own culture, it was all erased. And it brings me back to a conversation I was having with a friend of Sri Lankan descent. And she was talking about how Black and Brown people have been taught erasure. Erase yourself.
Wow.
Completely erase yourself and assimilate to this goodness, to this is what you're supposed to be, who you are, what you speak, how you look like. Just throw all that shit away because it doesn't fit into this perfect category of who you're supposed to be. And so I remember thinking, and this was way later, because at that time you're just taking it all in. You do not have options. You will get your ass whooped if you're not going to church. What are you talking about? Like, like we will stay in church all day.
Oh,
And, my sisters, they can attest to this. They're the ones that went through, being in church 3 times a week, Sunday from morning to evening,
get out
right?
my house, Joy. Get out my house. Sunday
And
school,
then
Bible
it,
study.
and I remember thinking back and thinking that's where a lot of confusion in identity comes from. Because what you're telling me and what I feel, my intuition, like it's just not making any sense. But I have to suppress the knowing that I know because yours is the goodness.
Mm.
And so if yours is good, that must mean that what I have is bad and is evil. And so it's like this good or evil. And life isn't like that. Life isn't, people aren't just good or just evil. Life isn't just good or just evil. There is so much gray and color in here that I think is repressed. And I
Mhm.
think that's what being colonized, being enslaved, being told that, what you're doing is wrong, throw that out for this. I think that is the mind fuckery, pardon my French.
Mhm.
Because now you're not only remembering it in your brain, your body is remembering this.
Yes.
And it
Yeah.
goes into generations
Mhm.
where you just keep passing the same stuff over and over and over again. And I'm going to tie this, Ali, to being told that if you just work hard, you're going to get there. And you look around and you say, that really does not make any sense because you're telling me one thing and then you're telling me another. And then now I have to work hard with my legs cut off and me tied up and be like, you can make it, keep going.
Because for
Who
400
you're not
years,
doing hard enough.
400 years of working hard, and what we got? Redlining, poor bank systems, and Jim Crow, and crappy laws from 1492. And give me a break. Give me a break.
Right.
So, so with the idea that, let me ask you this: when did it occur to you that something wasn't right? I mean, is this a recent thing as you're like, okay, I'm going to do something different? You come out of the military. Was it before the military? Like, from a timeline standpoint, when did you start to feel like, I don't
There's
know?
something here that's not doing it. I started feeling that. I remember my first thoughts were in around 2015. I was in
Mm,
the military at this time. And what did it for me, I think that was like the piece that just kind of opened my eyes to a whole different way of living. And it was scary. I'm not going to lie to you guys and say, oh, this was easy and this was, This shit was a dark night of the soul. Like, I do not know who I am. Everything has been a lie. And if everything has been a lie, who am I? And if I never questioned any of these things, who am I? Right? And you feel so much betrayal and you feel this loss. Because if that, I remember faith was my lifeline. That is the only thing in my life that I could count on was God.
You
That
think,
was
you
it.
thought.
I
Okay.
thought I was made to believe that is the only thing I could do, right? I could count on God, that's it. And then
Mhm.
you come to realize, wow, the God that you're talking about and the one that I've known and the one that I'm knowing, are they the same person? How is it that your God is going to say that some people deserve to die
Come on.
because of their sexuality or how they look like, but some people don't deserve? I don't. It's not making sense. And so I started asking these questions because I came into the realization that, so I did work for the church and I did a lot of child care and serving and all these things. And I was like, I am still very, very lonely. I'm not making the communities that y'all say that we're supposed to be making. It seems like I'm trying to fit myself into a thing that's already made and there's no room for me. So
Ooh.
I remember being in church. I was in church all my life, serving, doing all of these things, but at the same time, I'm not making these deep connections like I thought I would. And
Mm.
it's when I went into the military, and in church, we were told it has to be church folk. Your friends have to be church folk, otherwise, they're going to lead you astray. And I sat there with myself and I said, I have better friends that do not go to church than the ones that don't even see me at church. And I said, oh, hell no. And so I kept trying to make it work, right?
Yes.
Trying to fix it, trying to be in the small groups, be in the service, rejection, be in this, rejection, you don't fit the bill. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I think I've done everything that I was supposed to do and I still don't fit the bill. Maybe that means that it's not me with the problem. Yo. And when that realization came to me, something inside of me, my gut was like, bingo. For the first time in my life, I was like, that is the truth that resonates with the being inside of me. And so that was a journey that started around 2015, 2016, up until now. Boy, I'm going to tell you, 2018, 2019, shit got real. Life was just like dunking me in the water. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my whole life has been a lie. And uncovering all these beliefs as well, because it became a journey towards self,
Mhm.
towards me. And even that was very scary because, Christianity doesn't tell you you have a self. Erase yourself. You don't belong to yourself. You belong to God. And I was like, but I'm not happy. I'm not happy. Like all these things that you guys are saying is supposed to happen. How is it that it's not happening for me? I thought I did all the shit right, but it's not happening. It just seems to be happening to other people. And then I got bingo number two, and I was like, I see the elitism. You have to look a certain way, you have to do certain things for God to really love you and for things to work out. But keep praying because one day you will get there. And I'm like, but I don't. So is it going to be in this lifetime? Because I'm pretty sure this is not going to change
Mhm.
who I am on the inside. I am just me, my authentic self. So it's like a race to nowhere.
Yes.
You're sprinting to nowhere with no resources. It's like dangling a carrot and saying, come get this. And then it just keeps moving and it just keeps moving. And the saddest part for me, Ali, was realizing that I never even once questioned it. I never let myself question it because even questioning it would mean that I was on the other side, on the evil side,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep. Oh my God. What if we found out, we being the Christian body, found out that Christians could go to hell and non Christians can go to heaven?
Mm,
So, what if this whole idea of the final chapter? was flips upside down, and you didn't have to carry this title to actually make it to what, and I'm gonna hold defile this whole heaven and hell thing because I don't believe in it anyway. But so many do. So many believe that they're living this life today, this goodness. So like working in the house and the kids and all that, that's a temporary space, because what we're told is the end result is to go to heaven or hell.
The reward is heaven or hell.
Right.
Hmm.
That's that, yeah, that's your body, your life work is going to dictate where your soul ends up.
Hmm.
And I question that, because I said, in everything we are told that it will come, something will come. We even got people waiting for the skies to part and for God to ascend from heaven, we descend from heaven. So we still waiting for that, and all that. That's great. Um, but what if, considering we already have all the abundance that he said, we're made in his image, all of these great things we already have access to, what if we're currently, the life, the choices that we make, the belief that we actually have in what that book is telling us we're supposed to believe in? What if our heaven and hell is the life we're living right now, right?
Mm.
So that to me is what played into the, beliefs that could be holding you back, right?
Hmm.
Because not only do those beliefs say that I have to function, live, look a certain way, it also says in order for society to accept me, I got to be married.
Yeah.
I can't have children without being married. I already told you I'm a statistic. Uh, or whatever. And, if these things weren't lined up and didn't happen or whatever, then, you're not successful. And there are many people who would look at me now, and they don't know what I'm doing. They have no clue. They just are like, okay, she's always been kind of doing her own thing, but many people don't approve of it. They look at it and it's like, man, that's kind of cool, but don't none of them want to live it. And it's the fear that you talked about. There were a couple words that I wrote down: conditioning, respect, and you were talking about, what were you talking about? You were talking about just like the religious, evangelical thing, something like that. And it made me write down this concept of multiple religions. So we don't even have one religion. We are already divided. We already,
Hmm.
and that's to me what just makes it so confusing, that we get so caught up in this. It then also to me leads into why we're so stuck on this political party crap. Like why we're so stuck up on red and blue. They done made 15 movies about the red and blue pill. And we can't figure out yet that they are bamboozling us. And I just said this one time. I said, so look here. In the 400 years of the existence that they want to tell us that we have over here in the Americas, this is the ones that they just telling us about. They're not going to tell us how we were actually managing, and because they'll never tell us about the successful communities that we had even before that.
Before,
They won't
it's
tell
like
us
this was
about,
your conception.
right. They won't tell us about the castles that we built, Moorish castles. So if you go to any place in Europe and some places in northern Africa, you'll see what they call Moorish villages, castles,
Hmm.
and stuff. Look at the way that they're built
Hmm.
compared to the European stuff. Why? Okay, yeah, we all right. Anyway, so then when we start talking about the tombs and the big rocks and all of that, and I always question, I'm getting off track, but I just feel like I have to go here. Why do we worship something that does not look like? If y'all got an old Holy Bible, when you open the back of the Bible, there's a map, right? And the
Hmm.
map is of Africa, and it's the Red Sea and the River Nile and all that.
Hmm.
So I just want to know why Jesus looked like he do on them pictures and stuff, because them people ain't look like that over there. And I'm saying it satirically because it brings back this: we never questioned it. And even if we did, think about the fact that if we did question it, what happened to us when we questioned it? So we became comfortable
Yeah.
We became, it was a learned hopelessness,
Mhm.
right? And all of those things start to impact how we walk, how we move in these spaces that we're in, that then lead us to one of the things that, um, how do I call it? When we're just accepting things because they are path of least resistance. So
Mhm.
I call it the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
So when we start just doing things because, well, it's better than, not realizing power. And that's, I think, a big part. And that's why this conversation can go on part two, part three, because I haven't even touched on like the examples. Like we ain't even get into what it looks like,
Yeah.
because I think that's what's hard for people. Is it almost may sound like this is just a talk about religion, but
Mhm.
it isn't. It's really a talk about how did these things then set us up for how we wake up every day and tackle
Yeah.
the world, tackle what we're going to do, or just exist in it. And if I am saying I am a faith believer, how in the world can I believe this is my destiny? I
Mm.
believe that sitting at it's so not me. Like it, I did it because I function well. Like I'm a chameleon. Like I learned that I can go to a space and I can be in that space and I can function in it and all of that. But the things that you said it earlier, the things that you were most uncomfortable with were the things that you dove into. Those are the things that literally make me happy.
Mhm.
When I am afraid, so fear is twofold. The fear of I don't want to step out of line because the punishment for me, just speaking hypothetically, the punishment is larger than I can bear, and I'm more concerned about falling in line and and not messing up and doing anything against what somebody says, and but then there's this other fear that says, but if I don't do what just naturally comes, am I not believing God for what He
Mm.
made me? So where does my faith lie? In man, in the book, or in what so you said it before, when I'm erasing myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what has happened for me is I got to a point where, and maybe this becomes like a part two and a three, because we really haven't got into like how did we resolve, like
Yeah.
how did we come to a point where we're just like, yeah, okay, we just gonna figure this out, right?
Right. Let it burn.
Because ain't it already, right? But I'm gonna say, like, one of the things, I'm gonna write it down really quick, is I'm gonna write this down, because this one right here, I know a lot of people here and they're just like, that's so insensitive and everything doesn't always work a certain way. Every choice, everything that we make, even the one that I made to have a child at 19, was a decision that I made, and it put me in a position that I ended up without a choice, right? So
Mm-hmm.
to speak. But because I'm gonna tell you how I ended up in this position, because I was too afraid to stand up when what was happening and walk out.
Mm.
That's how, right? And so
Yeah.
when you start to sit back and you start to think about these things and you're like, why? So one of the questions I ask a lot is I'm not married, never been married. Because people are like, oh, you've never been married? You have a child? So we still associate having children with being
With
married?
marriage. Yes.
Y'all gonna stop. Ain't Gwyneth Paltrow got a baby? She ain't married. I just threw that out there. Her name just came to my head. I was thinking about Iron Man. Anyway, so but isn't the first thing that came to me is I defy some of the rules. So I'm 50. My child is grown. I ain't having no more babies. I got beautiful grandbabies. But this is when it hits me is I'm out here living this life. And you know how many people have an issue with the fact that I'm not back there helping raise my grandchildren?
Mm.
Okay.
Whew.
And this is what I had to come to terms, because I grapple with it. I grapple with it because I don't, watching them grow up on social media, videoing and things like that. But the other part I had to realize too is part of the reason why these belief systems work is because we attach ourselves to entities that are not us. So
Mhm.
even with your children, you don't own them.
No.
So the reality of it is, even in your life, at what point in time did your mom, siblings, whomever say, yeah, we just gonna have to let joy be joy?
Never. None. Nope. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
That wasn't the answer I was expecting.
Nope. Yeah, for my mom, never. For my sisters, they were like, oh, so like you're really serious. Wow, so you're really serious. And they would watch me from afar. They would watch, I mean, the decision to join the military was huge. They were like, you're doing what? Why? And I was like, I mean, because I need to. I had my reasons. And I think throughout the years, they watched me be so different because there's so many age gaps between me and my sisters. The one
Okay.
that I follow, I have 6 years, right? And so I was just very different. The way I chose to do things was different. And I think they watched me for a while, not saying anything, because I've always been someone. One thing that I will say, because I learned from a very young age to really take care of myself, I always have my shit straight. So if I say this is what I'm gonna do, no one questions my plans because they know if she's come to that conclusion, there's like steps A to Z, and it's gonna work out, right?
Mm.
It just became that way. And so I remember getting to a point where I felt comfortable enough to even speak about these things. And I realized that it started changing the fabric of my family. It started changing the way they saw things, the way they thought about things, and it opened up a deeper relationship that we had never had. Because for us, it was just pray about it, sweep it under the rug. Jesus gonna take care of it. That's it. There's total dysfunction, but we're not looking at it. We're gonna look there and wait for things to work out. But I realized the more I became truthful with myself, the more I asked these questions of myself and became comfortable, opened up the communication with my sisters, some of them, and for them to be like, oh, you've thought about that too? I just never thought I would say it. And so it's like a it's like this, it's a no. Like, oh, Joey, go live your life. There's some people that are like, no, I still need you here doing what I said you should be doing. And then there's other people in my family that are like, you give me so much hope.
Mm.
You've made me see that I can live. You've made me see that I can think for myself, that I'm not crazy, and that I'm not just doomed to fall in line. And this is how my life is going to be.
Is it okay to serve a God who is not enraged and narcissistic in that you have to ask him for every breath,
Mm-hmm.
ask him for permission for every single thing, question yourself even though he's already told you what it is? This is so wrong. I remember this thing that happened with LeBron. I don't know, 10 years ago, probably, when he was coming up in the league. He was in the NBA at this point in time, and he had made a comment about he attributes his success to himself. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the Christian world crucified that man. Now, I ain't never been a LeBron fan because I was like, he don't know how to shoot. Like, I swear, I remember he used to shoot the ball in the rafters. I was like, who the hell shoots? Everybody can make a shot if you shoot like that. He's a shooting rainbow, right? I garnered respect for him because of how he carries himself.
Mhm.
on and off the court. And because I never just, because everybody wanted to compare him to Mike, even though Mike was probably not a nice person. I was going anyway. Yeah, I mean, I don't know him personally, but I know people who are around him, like my brother and stuff like that. And but I still feel like Mike is number one. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you study your basketball because there's only one Mike. All right, okay. So I'm not even going. I don't even need to do. Yeah, I don't need to do none of that. You know who Mike is. Stop playing with me, okay? But he made the comment, and he was like, I take credit. Like I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And so many people got upset with him. And I remember, like, I still use this. That's the first thing that comes in my head to this day is why do people crucify him for claiming his kingdomship, for claiming his ability that he was given? He didn't say, I created, but he worked hard to get there because it was already in him. So all he had to do was get to the place that God already said, this is what is
for you.
This is you got to get there. I ain't gonna just like drop you like you said. Some people got dropped. We ain't talking about them because I do believe the tide will turn. So the tide will turn on the things that were gifted unfairly and unjustly. I just have a true. I believe in karma. It's gonna come. Maybe not in my lifetime, but it's gonna come, right? But I also believe like that's that working hard thing. Just work hard. Just work hard. And it wasn't so much that it's realizing. I'm gonna go to our infamous word, your purpose, right? So we could spend some time talking about this purpose. How figuring out and maybe still figuring out what that purpose is and how all of these like a lot of these belief systems that do hold us back and we don't even realize we're being held back because we think that, man, I made it. I got the house, I got the car, I got the job, I got the student loans, all of that. And so I'm working every day, but you're miserable, right? You're no happier than I am living in my studio apartment, jumping on buses every weekend, going and visiting different cities, sitting on a beach all day. I'm happy though.
Right. I'm living my
you
best
know what I'm
life.
saying? I'm just gonna say, right? But figuring out what our purpose is and then accepting the fact that it doesn't look like what somebody told you. Now, I want to preface some of these statements, right? Because I think a lot of people will get confused with, oh, I'm just going to stand on the street and then whatever happens, happens. No, I never said that working hard was the wrong thing. Working hard and not knowing what you're working for is the problem. We've never been taught to figure out our purpose, to figure out what we're strong in. And what we are strong in is the thing that we most naturally do without trying. So I used to tell this to my son. My son has such a knack for people, like, and he's such a not a people person. Like he is completely a what's the verts?
Introvert.
Because I'm like an ambivert, and I'm like, what's the other one? Extrovert, introvert, right? So he's very introvertish, right? That's a whole word. And he is. And he even is when he's working with people. But one thing he has a knack for is he is a calm. Right now, when he get pissed off, like it's a whole nother thing. And I actually love to see when he gets pissed off because I'm like, there it is. I bet you won't do that again to him. I bet you won't.
Sips wine.
And so, and we even talk about it, like I would love when he would do that. And we could have a whole nother conversation around how we ruin our kids with these belief systems, because if I could go back, and realize that I didn't have to have it all worked out. I didn't have to worry about not being a statistic. I didn't have to worry about whether or not there was or was not a certain amount of help, or trying to prove that I'm not going to fail, all of these things, but in the same time neglecting being a really good parent, whereas everybody from the outside in thinks it's great. Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. And you carry those things the rest of your life, right? So you could only make up for so much of it. But one of the things that I want to kind of make clear is I don't think we're saying, number one, we're not saying don't have any faith in anything, because you need to have faith in something. Like, we all have faith, even if it's the universe, karma, whatever you want to call it. That's the main message I'm really pushing, is what difference does it make what I call it? Number one, right? Okay. Number two, we do have to work hard.
Mhm.
But if we're working hard in vain, meaning for someone else and not for ourselves,
Yeah.
then why do it? Which is why this new generation is completely confusing people, because they're like, I ain't doing nothing and I ain't doing nothing.
Okay.
Now what?
They're like, I don't want to.
And
No
hire me
thanks.
anyway because I'm going to call in.
Yes.
All of that, right? And so we've got all that. And then as we start talking about how did we get out, maybe that's what we'll call this segment, this piece. How do we get out? Or are we, getting out, right? So as you're talking about, because I thought you were going to say, yeah, my family was behind me. My mom, they were just like, boom, yeah. Okay, yeah, you hit me with that one. I wasn't prepared. I was like, okay, hope I
That was not in the notes. Yeah.
didn't have a backup for that one. Yeah. So when that happens, where did you pull your strength from?
Ooh, that's a big one. That's a big one. I think the answer that people would like to hear is that I had mentors and friends that came and pulled me out of the gutter and blah, 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 blah. That did not happen at all. Right. The symphony and it all worked out and I'm here. No. Unfortunately, that is not my story. Uh I just started talking to friends about this in 2021. Most people did not know that I was getting dunked by life. My identity just flipped upside down with so many other things, right? And I think I got the strength, crazy enough, I got the strength from this God that I knew
Mm,
myself.
okay.
I got the strength from this place and I'm going to be real with you, Ali. I just started calling the entity God again.
Okay.
For the longest time, I couldn't even say God because it was very triggersome for me, right? I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And it accumulated during 2020. When 2020 was happening, and the way I saw Christians, my friends that I knew, people in my family act out, show their whole face, I said, there is no way. There is no way that you and I serve the same God. There is no way. I am sorry, but there is no way. And I think what started happening is I started asking the questions. I was like, fuck it. They said not to ask the questions. You know what? Now I'm going to ask all of them. It's just me and you, God. And I said, please help me. I am tired of being on my face day in, day out and not feeling any type of relief. Like, you want to tell me that I need to do this for the rest of my life? How sway? I said, no, 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 no. No, no, no. There's no way. And so I started asking, and just as I started asking, things started coming into my life. I found meditation.
Mm,
That is the thing that helped me the most because it reminded me who I was. It brought me back to that person that was inside without the noise, unadulterated. Who is this being in here where I could really converse with God in a way that didn't feel forced? I didn't feel like I had to do my quiet time every day and read my Bible and write in my journal, or else I'm gonna die. Or if this is a thing, I used to think. This is fucked up, y'all. I used to think if I don't do this today, if I die tomorrow, I will for sure go to hell.
Oh my God. Yes, that's fear tactics
Oh,
101.
one.
Yes, and we still, I know people still living by it, that suffrage, and if I didn't, and I know I used to have the
Hmm.
same thought process. And then I was just like, but wait a minute, these
But for
people
real,
living, these people living.
they
And,
not
and
worried.
I get that maybe at some point in time karma gonna hit them, but we're talking about 10,000 years of living. Like, I mean, and I don't even
Good.
need all that.
Good too. Living good,
I,
thriving well.
I just want to be satisfied, and I don't want to have to do it like that.
God.
You can't, come on. That whole fear of, if I told you all the things that, and even saying things in my head, like
Mm-hmm.
I can't say, I don't believe in Jesus. So I don't say prophets' names anymore. God is God. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't need there to be a son.
Mm-hmm.
So what's gonna happen if, I'm just like, yeah. Continue. I'm sorry.
Right? And so just coming to this place where I'm like, I see that. I don't know how to get there yet. I know I've seen a glimpse of this person where she's not worried about all this bullshit because part of me was like, I am exhausted. I'm tired. How much longer do you have to do this to what? To prove that you're good enough so you can go to heaven? What good is it for me to go to heaven and then my whole life spent here? I was in a toxic relationship with God. I did not love people like I was supposed to love people. We talked about love, but there are some people that could be loved and others that couldn't because they're not following the same faith. I said that my soul, the soul that I know is me, has a problem with that. And so I said, Joyful, let's pull on some strength, honey. You better start asking. And I always tell people this. I say, the same God that you keep saying, the one that says meditation is wrong, yoga is wrong, anything outside of him is wrong. I truly believe it is the relationship that I had with that being that when I opened my mouth and started saying, I cannot do this anymore, so many other ways started
Yes,
just
yes,
coming to me.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
So it's very interesting. It's not easy. It's hard. It's hard because I mean most of my family is very very Christian, right? And these are conversations that I probably wouldn't have with some of them because I know how left that goes, and you just get to a point where you're like, "You know what? I respect you. I don't want you to believe what I believe for you to be in the in crowd or for me to accept you. If that's what you've seen that works for your life and you really like it, you have full sovereignty and autonomy over your life.
That's right.
It's you and your God, baby. That's
Right.
it. And it's me and mine.
That part.
And it's me and
I won't
mine.
try to convert you. You don't try to convert me.
Yes,
Okay.
because I realized, Ali, I realized that when it comes to converting people, I realized at some point in my life that I did not see people for who they were. They just became another number that needed saving.
Oh,
So I didn't love you for you. I
right.
loved you for what I would get from you because as we make disciples of other people, it's like
Mm.
our brownie points like go up and maybe we're going to go in first, the pearly gates, while the other people go in at like number 5. And I was like, that's not how I want to live my life. People are people at the end of the day. And if I am erasing everything that you are for this satisfaction of so that you don't go to hell. Who am I to say so that you don't go to hell? Who am I to say that? Why do I have to take away your free will when God has given all of us free will? What does that make me? Now I'm trying to make myself your God. Isn't that
Yeah, because
blasphemy?
our God isn't strong enough to do his own work.
He needs people, disciples. Yeah. Mm-mm. I said no.
Again, I tell people, who wrote that? Who benefits from you thinking that you got to stick your hands in where something is already powerful? So let's play this back. So I'm gonna do some political stuff right here. If I believe that God is Alpha and Omega, Almighty, can can flood the world and the next one is going to be by fire, whatever, all these stories that we hear, all this stuff. If I believe that he can do this, he can ascend and descend, and he can look over the entire world like Santa Claus and decide what, but you're going to write him even though it's Santa Claus, though, but you still got to write him a letter, though. Tell him what you want. Okay. All right. So, but I believe that, he's almighty. He's powerful. He's got that strength. But without me walking around and instead of just living in that purpose, finding out what my good quality is, right? And I know some people will say, well, the good quality is discipleship. But you could be a good disciple by being a good steward and living. I don't need you to tell me anything,
Mm-mm.
because one of the things that we know for certain is you know how many top singers we have that actually can't sing worth a dime. They got the persona and the personality, and so what we buy is we buy the image. We buy what they make us feel like, right? We don't really care that Aaliyah could never sing. I love Aaliyah to death, and we were in Mexico when her plane went down. Me and my son, right? It was our first international trip. And so I remember that like it was yesterday. And I see how I get off track. But anyway, so we have this, we, on one hand, we say greatness and king and, almighty and untouchable. Um, and then on the second hand, we start to question where we fit in this, right? And I always kind of want to go back to, this is that thinking part. This is the ask questions. Who told us not to ask questions? Who told us it was wrong to question these beliefs? Because if you think about it for a minute, and you say to yourself, okay, well, if he can do all these things and he is all powerful, he does not need my assistance, right? And nothing is guaranteed without hardship and some kind of strain. There's possibility of some things go pleasantly for some people. You hear some stories of some people and they're just like, yeah, I just walked in and this and this and this and that happened and all that. You're like, well, dang, time, right place. Why? Because they may have been walking into their purpose, right? And
Mm-hmm.
even if, so there's steps along the way. So I know a lot of people listen to things and they're very one track minded. They only hear one thing. You don't believe in God. Number two, you don't believe in what's promised. You don't believe that you're supposed to put all your worries to him. But who is him that you putting your worries to? And I think Shay said, why is God a he? Okay, I'm not even gonna go there. And so we have all of these things that we that are sitting back here, right, weighing heavily on us, and we know they're weighing heavy, but we have trained ourselves to smack the back of our hand if we even think. We call it doubt.
Mm.
We call it doubt. I doubt the Lord. No, you don't doubt the Lord. You don't doubt God. You doubt the doctrine that you've been told.
Yes.
You doubt what you have to do to be in good graces. That's what you're doubting. You're doubting this system that says bow down, kneel over, uh, cast the other eye for the first eye. I don't even know what you say, but you know what I'm talking about. All of this, this belief that I have to endure doggone near death in order for God to say, she did it again. Let me, like you said, it's like this point system.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Now
I
I can bless you.
listen, the God that I serve, I believe the part That says, and I don't even have to. So this is the whole thing with reading, believing the Bible, and not believing some of it, or whatever the case may be. Is I always wonder why in our churches all we teach is condemnation. We teach the
Mm.
fear. We teach what's going to happen to you if you don't. All of these things, but what pastor have you ever met that actually reads Psalms and Proverbs? Focuses on the love. Song of Solomon, which look,
Wow.
Proverbs are like a lot of lessons. So let's say Song of Solomon. Let's just say nothing else reside.
Wow.
If if love is the answer, why do I need the other 65 books?
Mhm. Mhm.
Why do I need to care about the New Testament? Like it doesn't
Mhm.
matter, right? Why do I
Mhm.
need to see his modern day walk? Why do I care about 12 people who lied and defied on him because you need to prove to me that I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm why do I need the negativity if what I'm trying to do is figure out how to walk my walk and do it in a way where I am becoming abundantly what I'm already created to be, right? Who
Mhm.
benefits from me thinking that I have to be in misery to possibly be awarded success? What system does that sound like?
Mm. Mm.
Oh, okay. And so that's where I go into that whole the lesser of two evils, where we have become very complacent in, well, at least they ain't gonna beat us. And
Oh. Whew.
or
Mhm.
at least God gonna spare my life, at
Mhm.
least, and we paint God as, such an ugly picture, but we do know, I tell people all the time, they're just like, God don't do this and God don't do that. I say, God turned tables, so don't tell me I can't get mad. You're not going, I mean, if we gonna sporadically pick and choose the parts that we want to use, I'm gonna sporadically pick and choose, since y'all said the Oppressor's Handbook. But the Oppressor's Handbook is also going to tell you all the things that point out what you have to do to yourself to defile yourself to in order to be in honor to another man,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
So in all of that, and I don't know, maybe we should have based this on the Bible, but all of
Oof.
that to me then feeds into every system. It feeds into our work system, our work ethic. And I think we could do like a part two on the impact of the societal or the biblical or religious um, forms that then say a woman cannot be successful unless she one, two, three, four, and five. Like, do
Yeah.
we believe that? So if we don't believe that, and we can start to question that, why wouldn't we start to question job rules, other societal rules, religious rules? Like,
Mhm.
at what point in time do we start to realize something isn't right? It's okay to point out something isn't right, and maybe at the same time, where we're not trying to be perfect, we're actually being allowed and afforded the time to figure out what we're supposed to be doing in this great big grand world.
Yes. Yes. Ali, I just want to touch on something that you said, and you said it before. You talked about one, purpose and survival. Because I think that when you are surviving, you're not thinking, what is my purpose on earth? Oh, no, no, no. You're not thinking, oh, I'm going to cultivate these qualities, these abilities that come naturally to me. Why is it that we think the things that come naturally to us are wrong and not important, but the things that we struggle to get is what is up here? That's an achievement. But if it came easy to you, did you really work for it? And it's just like this struggle mongering. You have to struggle. You have to struggle. You have to keep struggling, keeping us in survival mode, keeping us never truly being in alignment with who we really are. Because talking about working hard, we're not saying don't work hard, but working hard in your purpose in your strength and in your vision feels so much different than working hard in a place where you feel like every day you're getting choked. So different, right?
Mhm.
And maybe that's what they call working smart,
Yep.
because you're just working in line with who you are, which is so different for a lot of us. And then, number two, you asked a question, is it okay to serve a God who doesn't need me to blank? And I filled it with, is it okay to serve a God who doesn't need me to abandon myself?
What was your answer?
Sure is, honey. That's the only one I want to serve if I'm serving
Yes.
anybody. Is the one
Yes.
that makes me feel okay being human. Because in church, we're told being human is the flesh and being of the flesh is
Mhm.
of the devil. But my question is, if he didn't want us to be human, then our soul wouldn't have come into this flesh. So that's, again, it's not sense making, my friend, because how is it that I serve a God that is so egotistical and so narcissistic and wants me to always call on his name so he can feel good about himself? Is that the same God that is omnipresent, that does this and things just appear? And you're like, this does not make sense. I don't think you're talking about God. I think you're talking about you
Yeah.
and your doctrines and your systems of oppression and the
Mhm.
toxic theology that makes people believe that they're nothing, because that's all it is.
Come
You're
on.
nothing, you're not deserving, you're not worthy, you'll never get to where you're supposed to go. There's so many things right now on social media with mental health that are talking about enoughness.
Mhm.
And I was talking to my sister a couple months ago and I said, you know, when you've been told your whole life that you need something else to make you even feel like you're important, how is it that you're going to wake up one day and be like, I'm enough? You've been told you're not enough your whole life.
Right.
You've been told that you need something else outside of you to come and say, okay, I choose you. And now you can be enough. And so we're seeing like all these generationals, lifetimes of ideologies and ideas that are simply not working. We're seeing it in our systems. And then we're saying, well, why is that not working for you? Well, did you see the foundation of the shit that I had to work with? Oh, you should just pull yourself by the bootstraps and it should work. How?
Right.
Show
How?
me how it should work. Show me how it should work and I will do it.
Mm.
Honey,
So how did we get here? How did we get out? How did we find the door?
I think as scary as it was for me, I said I will choose joy.
Literally.
Because joy, exactly. Literally, figuratively, metaphorically, I choose joy. Because no one out there is telling me choose yourself.
Right.
No one out there is choosing me either. I said it always feels like there's a box that you're supposed to be in it. And this box is supposed to be put into this other box. And somewhere, somehow, it just never fits this fucking puzzle. It's like this puzzle just kind of morphs. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oops, sorry. Come back 2 years later. And then 2 years later, like, oh my gosh, I'm here. I
Yeah.
have all the things. It's like, sorry, still not it. And I said, you know what, Joyful, come on now, baby, you are smarter than that.
Yeah.
Come on, sis. And I said, as hard as it is, as hard as I don't know for it to be, because I'm going to tell you, I did not grow up with anyone telling me, oh, I love you, you're deserving, you're these things. Baby, I didn't have that. I had to talk to the joy on this side, to the other joy on this side, and be like, okay, honey, let's go do it. And I think that was the basis of making me so strong to choose myself, no matter how much I didn't know what that was going to look like, no matter how much I would possibly get shunned from my family.
Mhm.
People would think you've absolutely lost your way. I said, at the end of the day, if I come to the end of my life and I said, I chose joy, and this was the consequence of me choosing joy, I'll be okay with it.
Yeah.
That's it. I'll be okay with it.
Yeah. Oh man. Um, One of the things that this might have to be part four. I don't know. Is we got a book listed. Um,
Mhm.
is and I kind of did a video on this the other day about nomading. Is it easy and fun as it seems, and so on and so forth. Is and that's specific to nomading, but really finding your purpose is it's not an easy thing to do. And part of the reason is because, first of all, we have to indoctrinate ourselves. Number one, we have to feel like we're in a safe enough space to do it, support or no support. And oftentimes we don't have the support. I think families and groups of people are coming around. I think just what's happening from a societal standpoint, there's just so much happening that people are literally just being flipped and turned upside down. It's kind of like, you better accept this or don't, it's
Yes.
um, but those who really feel like, they can't function without, that support of one person, two person, three person, those people they need that structure in order to continue. Everybody doesn't need that. Hence, you and I, we're functioning, and not that we don't want a level of support to pursue our dreams. And for me, I've dedicated 38 years to something outside of myself to make ends meet, which got me to where I am. So I don't negate any of that, right? And that'll be like part five is what are things that you can do so that you can position yourself, because those are some of the things that talking about, how do we get this next generation, or even my son's generation or whatever, to pick these things up
Yeah.
before you hit 40 and 50 years old. You know what I'm saying? Well, I think you're like in my son's generation, like
I
you
was
guys
just thinking that. Yeah.
like before, I say all the time, please, I tell my kids, man, please don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't wait. That 20 years goes by fast, and you don't want to be sitting here going, dang, I'm nowhere, right? When just a little bit can take you a little bit further, right? So maybe that's a definite conversation I want to have, is about how to start. If we're going to sacrifice, put some flavor, some um emphasis, some whatever. I don't know what the kids terminologies they using now, like you got that swag, you got that split, whatever that little boy say, you got that split. What you wearing today, Brandon? Don't worry about it, don't worry about it. I got that. Let's put some split on it, okay? I do it too.
Yes.
I know if my son sees, he's gonna be like, Mom,
Mom.
don't do it. I'm gonna
Somewhere
do
with a
it anyway.
son.
I'm gonna
Exactly.
do it anyway. You know me. But how do we glamorize
Yeah.
sacrificing, not so that you're just making it with no goal, but
Mm-hmm.
so that you are making it on purpose, so you can do what you want to do when you decide.
It
Like,
benefits you
come on,
for
like
your benefit.
the purpose being so that I can get up and walk away when I want to, and you can't tell me what I got to sit and do. Who benefits from you not being in position to get
Mm.
up and walk away? Who benefits from that? And it's not a colorism thing, it's a
Mm-hmm.
systematic thing,
Yeah.
it's a classism thing.
Mhm.
It's as long as you got to have workforce, you got to have staff, you got to have like labor force, right? And so as long as I've got you where you're hen tied, where you think that you're special because you have a student loan, because you got, or working on some piece of paper that you're going to put in some crappy plaque and put on your wall or whatever,
I
you're
don't even know where mines are. They're somewhere in a storage unit, somewhere at home,
like
somewhere.
you ain't bringing with you, is what you
No,
say.
mm-mm.
you know
They're not
because,
posted up there.
like, does it how much does it matter in the grand scheme of things, unless that is truly what you divinely want it to be or become, right?
Yeah.
But in most cases, I think a lot of times we're doing it because we're told we have to.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have this. We have to, and I don't want to say that you don't have to. What I want to say is I got here without a lot of that, right? I
Mm-hmm.
will also say that I could have been so much further had I have had a certain level of direction. I said, okay, well, since you already sacrificed and you not, you're already, you minusculely like living as meagerly as possible. I mean, I had some extras and stuff that I would do, but if you're already doing that, this is what you could do to compound that. And those are the kinds of conversations I want to be able to pull from this belief system kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
These certain beliefs and traditions and rules and patterns and things that we've always done for me kept me from learning how, and decisions that I made kept me from having the space. Let me say this, didn't keep me from learning, but kept me from having the mental capacity and the space to actually say, oh, there's a different way. Number one. I mean, I always knew some had to be, some had, because some is a little different here. Um, but kept me from being at a point where I had the mental space. And I'm gonna tell you guys something like before, like, we go, one of the things that I wrestled with on this journey the first 20 months I was gone is when I finally took the space, like you're saying, 2018 was really like the time frame for me when I was just like, okay, um, wow, trauma situations occurring. You're just like, no way. I was
Yeah.
8 years old when it occurred to me that that's why I was feeling a certain way, or that's why, this. Now I was like, oh my God, oh my, I thought I was good, but I really wasn't. I never was really good. And so as I'm sitting here and I'm just like, but over during in the course of that time and where I am today, so we're talking about 4 years of just getting to this, waking up, and I hate to say that awaken thing, but for myself, and realizing that there are things that I actually need to work through outside of just, you need to do something different. Well, you're going to do something different because you chose to. But when I took the leap and quit my job in 2020 without a plan, I still don't have a plan, and people ask, well, how are you functioning? And I said, clearly I must have made some good decisions at some point in time. So I want to talk about those because I did it aimlessly
Yeah.
without thinking. But in the back of my mind, didn't I know this is what I wanted? Didn't I know that
Mm.
this was the freedom that I sought?
Yeah.
So God set me up, put me in position. Go ahead, buy this, buy that, bada boom. Okay, because and I did something that other people that were close to me didn't do, but I
Mhm.
did it, right? And I even got chastised in why you need such a big house, why you need this, why you need that. And I was like, because it's as cheap as a little house. There you go, buy a little house, folks, when the big house
We could
costs the
buy a
same,
big one.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but I took the time to start finding myself, and what hit me probably last year, I was just like, so concerned. And even to this day, I'm like, God, do I have capacity for
Mm.
me now? Like, did I burn myself out so much working 80-hour weeks and my son sleeping on my desk? And because I'm just trying to climb up the ladder, I'm just trying, I didn't have this degree or that and this and that. And so I'm just working my way up. And back in the day when you could work your way up, but I worked my way, I worked hard and I got to a certain place only to just walk away and give it all away. Like I don't have
Mm.
a severance. I don't have my job didn't. They was like, okay, after 19 years,
Wow.
nothing, nothing, right? So had I not have done my things on the side that I could potentially fall back on, nothing. I would still be there going, "Oh, I can't leave. I hate it. I can't leave." But
Yeah.
it occurred to me even then that as I was going through, I was just like, I didn't realize how much fog was in my head. And so the 2 years up until like this July, which made 2 years, was really clearing out space.
Hmm.
Now I'm finally getting to a point where I'm just like, oh, okay, let me take some languages. I think I have some space to actually learn some stuff because I really was like, oh my God, am I brainless? Am I at a point where I don't have the capacity to pick up anything else and do now for me? So what I want to come
Mm.
from these types of conversations is don't wait until you're so burned out that you don't have the time. That's what that retirement thing. Work
Yeah.
until you retire. We don't even know if retirement gonna be there. I got 15 years before I get retirement, and there's no guarantee. And even if it is, then we don't know what it's going to be, right?
Yep.
We really just don't know, right? And so to be banking on something like that is kind of like, a little frivolous or whatever. But that's like where I think we don't realize we could get to a point where we start to feel diminished capacity. And
Mm.
I was like, am I unlearnable? Like I swear to God, I feel like I can't learn another language like fluently. Because I'm just like, how do these people just speak these languages fluently? But then I give myself credit because I'm like, you were in 4 different countries speaking 4 different languages in 1 year.
Hmm.
Now I ain't say I was fluent, but I knew some stuff.
Right. You got by.
Today I don't know what I was saying, but it don't matter. Like today, that yesterday I was good, but I want to be able to use some of these kind of conversations, our experience where we are right now, as preparatory for those who will listen, because everybody ain't gonna listen. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? But how do we prepare or share the experience in a way that it's almost like 101? you know, these are some of the things to consider. If you continue down the path, it's like you were saying earlier, it's not bad mouthing a certain way of life. It's realizing it did not fit and being okay that it did not fit and having the strength. You're younger than I am. So your attachment to your family is newer.
Hmm.
You like but going to the service, I'm sure kind of helped create some of that separation as well. You developed a different family, and that kind of thing. But how do we survive? How do we make it if we choose to go a path
Yeah.
that someone doesn't already, doesn't think that that's where we should be going?
They don't approve of it or validate it.
Right.
And how do we feel safe doing it?
Hmm.
Because I feel like a lot of fear base is taking away that safety and that trust. And I feel like a lot of this is that coming home to self and saying, no matter what happens out there and here, oh, I'm good. It's good in here. And building that up because it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Obviously, it doesn't happen overnight. And, I don't want the people that are watching this to think, oh, that we're not glamorizing any of this stuff.
I
This
mean,
is
look,
full authenticity of the things that we've done, we've been through, we're going through, and we're working through. Right.
yes. Yeah.
So, and it looks different for everyone. If it's not for you, guess what? The beautiful thing about life is that you can take what's yours and let the other things pass.
Learn you some Kabbalah.
That's it.
Listen, this was when people would say, God chose this and this is the right religion and stuff. I said, but who created Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, which was here first,
Mhm.
Catholicism, okay, Kabbalah, who create, yoga, meditation, who create. So you're saying that all those people who did something didn't know it was called, that we called a group called it Christianity or Muslim belief or faith, whatever, that so their creator is wrong, but it's God
Mm.
though. I mean, like even it would floor me even to this day. Like I don't even know how to formulate the thought because I'm just like, we are literally saying that only one group of people are the chosen ones. That can't be. You're lit. It can't be.
Yeah.
And if it is, that's just not the road I'm walking down.
Nope.
It's
Mm-mm.
I refuse to believe that. First of all, we all are made different. We look different. Even in our colorism, sex, we still look different.
Mhm.
Um, I refuse to believe that on one hand, I can fight against something like colorism, racism, all of that. But then on the other hand, I can say that group economics, whatever we want to call it, is God's way.
Mm, yep. Yes.
So how do we jump on one bandwagon but then fight the other?
The other one. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. There's no congruency.
Right.
That was the biggest thing for me in 2020. I was like, there's no way. You cannot tell me that those two things are on the same plane. It just doesn't make any sense.
And this is why I don't argue scriptures with people,
Mhm.
because I'm like, you're not going to quote to me a book that the very people who gave you can talk to me about God and your belief all you want. But as soon as you start quoting scriptures from that book, from the very people who oppressed you, like I struggle with it. And
Yeah.
the reason I struggle with it is because we live so wholeheartedly by the words. And then we even got the nerve to say the red ones is God. Who told you that? I just be like, please tell me there's a green pill. There's a magic wand. That's why I'm a Jedi, because I believe at some point I'm gonna be able to Jedi y'all out of this. Now, I mean,
Please.
because I'm just like you, just on GP,
Yeah.
I struggle with any part of it that talks about me not accepting my own power, which
Mm.
is primarily everything that we learn. I mean, there's quite a few books, but we also know Shay asked a question. So if Adam and Eve created the human race, was that incest? And I'm going to answer that by saying no, because they didn't create the entire race, because the Bible only talks about bits and pieces. There were many of people here before the story, and this is why this whole thing is confusing. And it is good to ask those questions. This is why when they talk about, Eve is so, this and that, and she, men try to say that the woman is the reason for all evil in the world, but
Really?
that's
Really?
that can't be either, right?
Yeah.
We do know this. I mean, now one hand is that we could just simply believe that it truly started with the book of Genesis and the creation of Adam and Eve, and that there weren't all these other people, and it just kind of did this. Somebody did the split the tape, and then they combined this part and brought it together. And we already know that the first, the Bible is not in chronological order. We
No.
think it's in chronological order, but they're stories, and then we still read them as if they are life events, and not allegory. But at the same time, we know that Christianity is only like 200 years old, or
So
more.
what happened to the other thousands upon thousands and
And actually,
millennia?
yeah, it's got to be older than that. It's got to be older than that because it was heavily used in slavery. So it's got to be older than that. But it's a newer religion. Judaism is older, and so when you start to ask and you say, well, okay, well, the calendar of events of what happened. So what came first? Greek mythology, Aesop's fables, or the Bible? Because they all tell the same story. They're all the same stories. Isis and Horus. I mean, when we look at the hieroglyphs on the temples.
Mm-hmm.
So either you're gonna tell me that all that stuff is somebody just drew it, which I'm gonna tell you, when I went to Egypt, I started questioning some things.
Mm.
I was struggling. I struggled so, and this is one of the reasons why I back away. And I know I'm so off track, but I back away from doing a lot of historical tours,
Mm-hmm.
depending on who they're by and stuff. Because sometimes it just seeing it and kind of getting what I feel from it, and then going and doing some research, to me is better than sitting and listening to somebody tell me who created that, who built that, and then there's a cross, and then they basically tell you that the Christians destroyed most of the buildings and stuff because they didn't want the worship, deities and things like that on the walls when they took over these buildings. And so you'll see all the destruction of these buildings. And I was like, oh, Christians did that?
Wow.
They
Along
tore
with
up
mass
stuff?
genocide? Wow, they've been busy.
No. No, and I'm not making mockery, but I am, because what I'm trying to say is it's silly. It's silly to group us, or group yourself by a title, given to you by a group of people who don't like you, right? What I tell
Mm.
people all the time is, stop telling me that I am set here to serve the same God that my oppressor served. That's why I say I
Mm.
serve a different one, because y'all still telling me that it's the same one. And I'm just like, but he can't
Yes,
be,
but it's not. Mm-mm.
because God is not a light switch.
No.
It's not for me. And so he
Mm-mm.
doesn't go, okay, well, so for these guys over here, this is the doctrine, but for y'all, this is the doctrine. So you kind of have, no, I don't think he works like that.
No.
I believe he really truly considers us equal. I
Mm-hmm.
truly believe we are all made in his likeness. I believe, and if people, and this is why when we were, when we were talking about, the history and all of that, um, the idea of science over, um,
Religion.
yeah, over religion, the creation of man, like where do we come from? Are we a product, truly a product of our environment? Do we really believe that we were raised up out of the ground, that kind of thing, or do we think that evolution? That's the word I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
This evolution versus the religion aspect of things, and then when we think about it from that perspective, then what's how do we differentiate, um, our existence to our existence from the beginning to
Mm-hmm.
where we are today, from the stories that we've been told as well as what is written, right? Like how do we ignore some of it, start to come to realizations, and then don't start to look at the scientific part of it. I mean, it's hard to,
Difficult.
right? And I know that's why a lot of times people don't want you to start looking at things from that perspective. They want you just have to believe in the Bible. And if you're not, then, you know, you've allowed them to get into your head and this and that and the other. And all I'm saying is think. Just think. It doesn't have to be so cut and dry. Like
Yeah.
nothing, I don't think anything is that simple. We are very complex, like you were talking about earlier. There's no monolithicness here. Like even ants ain't all the same. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so for us to honestly think that there isn't something that they don't want us not to know, right? So if I can get you, the lowest on the totem pole, to believe in everything outside of yourself, as you were saying earlier, if I can get you to think that you don't have a chance, you don't have an existence, a place, believing in yourself, that if you believe in yourself, or you believe in the strength that I have bestowed upon you, that you're lost. If I can get you to believe that, and you won't be successful, so
Mm-hmm.
you're striving for the ghost in the night, you're striving for this thing that may or may not ever exist. If I can get you to continue to do that, you think about all the people in the South of in the U.S. and this, even though we're not supposed to have that Mason-Dixon line, we still got it. Mentally, we still have it. We still have people
Yeah.
who literally, when slavery ended, even in Texas, they were just like, all right, so what we do? I mean, we still got to finish these crops. That's what the movie Django was about.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, oh, so you free and you still walk around looking like a fool on your own? So they
Yeah.
bank on us having a fear. And that's why one of the things I challenge people with when they get upset, I think Shay was saying, when you start talking about religion or beliefs and stuff like that, it's a trigger word for a lot of people. A lot of people get upset, and you going to hell and this and that. We already in hell. What you talking about?
Okay.
What you talking about? Like, I am trying to find my little little space of heaven, because
Heaven.
I'm already in it, right? And so, yeah, all of that. And I don't even know what your list looked like, but we didn't even get here. We didn't get here. Because what I
Scratching the
realized,
surface.
yes, what I realized is that one question today, that was like everything without getting into the examples of what it looks like. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what I'd really like, if you're game, is to
Yes.
talk about next time
Mm-hmm.
what how these beliefs present themselves in our day-to-day lives.
Ooh, my favorite.
Yeah. How do they present themselves? Because we've broken down the history, how we got here, how we believe, and all that. And everybody continue to believe as you choose to believe. But if you're unhappy, tune in.
Yes.
If you're questioning some things, tune in.
I want to know
This
what.
isn't to make you switch your belief systems or anything, but it's just maybe start believing in yourself. Maybe
Mm.
actually start believing in God.
Ooh.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about
Mm.
those belief system things, like how they manifest themselves in our lives, what they look like. And because I think what happens is we don't realize it. We don't realize
Yeah.
we're complying to it until
Mm-hmm.
it's too late. And so I think we can share, because you went the route of military, which I think is, I look at so many examples and I'm like, man, I should have done that because I've been retired by now. I'd be living good if I'd have made it through. And the thing is, if I can make it doing everything else, I could have made it, doing that, right? But I never considered it. Never even considered the military. But what was my option? What did I consider? What did I do?
Right. Right.
The flip
Right.
side,
What were my choices? Did I feel like I had a choice?
it had never even occurred. And let me ask you this really quick before you go. Did you come from? I mean, just like I could probably answer this myself. You didn't come from a military family, unless
Nope.
you know.
Nope. It was a way that I needed at the time. I thought this was the only way that I can make things happen.
Wow.
I'm not one of those people where I laid in the bed and I said, man, I cannot wait to go into the military. Nope. Oh, hell no. This was a decision that I was presented with a different set of problems. And I said, oh, this is a choice. This is a decision that I have to make. And I made it.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Man, I watched this movie last night, Black and Blue, with
Mm-hmm.
Tyrese. I don't know if you've seen that or
I haven't
not.
watched it yet.
It's really really good. It's not old. It's probably like 4 or 5 years old, but I guess that's old nowadays. And that's what it's about. One of the girls, she went to the military. She came back and decided to be a cop in her old neighborhood, and a lot of stuff happened, and it ended up breaking down to a relationship that she had with a friend there who basically was so mad at her because she left her, and she was like,
Mm.
"Ooh," she said, there was only so many choices out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Stay. She said, I begged you to come.
Ooh,
You
I
know,
think I've watched it.
have you? It's got
Yes.
Tyrese in it, and it's what's the
He
girl?
works at a convenience store, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Ooh,
It's
that's a
it's it's a
good
good
one.
it's a good movie because it hit on
Uh-huh.
some stuff, like stuff that we
Yep.
see happening in America now, and just and that plays into these belief systems, these systems, and then even like the political, not the political, the workforce system that she had to assimilate to, right?
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yes.
and then or they thought she had to assimilate too. And she was like, yeah, no, I
Mm.
don't.
Plot
And even
twist.
and even the community was like, why won't you just assimilate? The rest of them hate us. Which to the point where they didn't even believe that she was trying to do something to help them.
Good. Yes.
The
Oh
gumption,
my.
you
Yeah.
know? Right. And so that's why I think like this next session, like we got out like the foundation of
Mm-hmm.
how like a lot of this stuff comes to being, and the bottom line is religion plays a big part in a lot of this. I really didn't even like I didn't write down a lot of religious things, but this literally turned into that becomes our source, because for a lot of people we always go back to that, and that's what we always hear is this country and this was founded on. It wasn't founded by y'all though, but I mean besides that, it it wasn't really, are these things really, religious based, and how much of that are we hanging on to not make decisions for ourselves, which then feed into our political climate, which then feed into our making decisions as families, which feed
Mm-hmm.
into our, every relationship that we're in, and that kind of thing. And so these next things is, okay, I'm gonna show you how it's hidden, how you don't even know, you know,
Yes.
when you go to work every day, apply for a job, when you're deciding to try to do what we're doing. I'm gonna show you what it looks like.
I cannot wait.
So before we get out of here, because we're definitely over, we were thinking an hour and a half. Yeah, it's a little bit over that.
Yep.
I would say. Do you want to share with people your next venture coming in November, or you want to
Oh,
just wait and see when it happens?
let's wait and see. I'm just gonna be in a different place. Let's just say that.
Well, not that part.
Oh,
The other part of the platform.
oh, the
Yeah.
yes, I would love to.
Do you want to share
Yes.
that? Yes.
So, coming up, I will be doing two things. I will be doing a podcast on my Soul Kitchen lifestyle brand, which is more of this kind of living, right? I believe that we should bring everything that we are to how we live. How we live is important. And so I'll be having more of these discussions in a podcast type of setting. And then I will also be starting a newsletter called Finding Joy. And this newsletter is going to talk about what it looked like for me. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but I just came back from traveling for 9 months straight in different countries, about six different countries, very many cities. And what it took for me to sell everything, I sold all my stuff. Put the important things in storage. I bought a one-way ticket to Europe, and I said, "You know what, universe? I guess we doing this." So, how I came to that conclusion, what that meant for me, what that journey was like for me, because I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't all eat, pray, love. We'll
Mhm.
say that right now. It was not all eat, pray, love, but it was one of the most beautiful things that I've ever done. So I will be sharing that. And if you're interested in that, I will drop in my handle at Soul Kitchen Lifestyle on YouTube, and the same thing, Soul Kitchen underscore lifestyle on IG. And then if you're also interested in the professional life, because I told you I play and I live, that is the Joy McCurry on Instagram and Facebook and all these other things. And we'll put the links down.
Fantastic. Yes, that'll all be in the description for you guys to check out. So that's awesome. That's some awesome stuff. Um, yeah, because that's what we want to share with people. How did we get here? Like
Yeah.
how did the beliefs and the that's why this has to be a part one, because there's got to be parts to this. How did we go from all of those stigmas that we had to I'm in Ecuador? You're in Mexico because you drove
Yes.
all the way from the northwest of the United States
Yep.
through. I mean, yeah, we gotta talk about that. I mean, we just all day we just like, how the hell did we get here? We'll just call it how did we get here?
Yeah.
Which I just think is awesome. So definitely, you guys, when those things are posted, if you guys support those, that would be fantastic, because this I feel like what we're sharing is, even though we're embarking on it, it is the new way.
Yeah.
This is going to be the new religion, right? This is, take what resonates and leave the rest, right? So if you listen, do horoscopes, which is another sin.
Ooh.
You can get into that, which, I do. I'm a sad y'all all day. But if you listen to that, a lot of readers will say, in the beginning, take what resonates and leave the rest. So in other words, don't come to me, Tom, that ain't me, that ain't me. You might not know what is you, because you living in your false self.
Mm.
Under your doctrines and beliefs and all of that, you might not know what is you. We
Yeah.
ain't gonna touch on that though. We'll get on that in a couple of weeks. So you guys check back. I'll be doing some lives or some pop on or some videos and stuff like that during the week. I'm trying to be consistent, but I think the Sunday 2 o'clock time slot is great. Hopefully Joy will come back and we'll do some more chatting, because
Definitely will.
it's not over. We're gonna try to keep to a time frame. I don't know. I think this was great personally, but we'll see what happens next time, you guys. So anyway, I think that's it, Joy. I think
Yes.
we're gonna shut it
Thank
down.
you,
Let's shut it.
Ali.
Guys, thank y'all for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share. We'll share all the other links and things like that for you guys as well. So do that for the both of our what do you call them, platforms.
I
And
think so.
yeah, we'll see y'all later. Y'all know the drill. Toodles and noodles. Peace and
Bye.
peace.